Here we are.
There's an African proverb that says that a man that does not work does not know the true value of rest. Along with that proverb, there's another that states that poverty is slavery. These two combined together encompass the fact that Africa is struggling with poverty. It's not to say that the citizens within each African nation are putting themselves in poverty, but it is to say that many of these African nations have such tight government controls over many of their economic structures that they are not able to go above and beyond what they are at now, leaving them in poverty. Now, if you look over to the United States, you can see that there are plenty of entrepreneurship people out there that are willing to start up new ventures and willing to start up new companies in order to get themselves a job. However, within Africa, there are basically no entrepreneurship companies or entrepreneurship people that are interested in going into any type of field like that because of these tight government restrictions that are causing unsettling and unrest. Now, many of these nations are growing, but they aren't seeing the growth that they could with the possibilities of entrepreneurship involved. Which brings me to my 3 points that I'd like to talk about today. The first one being that global entrepreneurship is surpassing many of these African nations in what they have as far as capabilities are concerned. Second, many of these African nations are faced with many challenges, two of which I will get into whenever I get to that point. My third point is that many of these countries can help themselves, and there are also ways that we can help, which will be my call to action at the end of the speech. Now, going back to my first point, I'd like to point out that global entrepreneurship is moving beyond what is available and what many of these citizens can get their hands on within many of these African nations. Now, it's not to say that growth isn't happening, but it is to say that there are plenty of opportunities that these people are not getting their hands on. Now, there are two, there are two countries that I'd like to focus on. The first one being Ghana and the second being Kenya. Ghana is kind of closer to the top of the scale, and Kenya is closer to the bottom as far as what these countries are importing, exporting, just as far as the overall economic structure of each country. Now, according to SagePub.com, areas like South America and Africa are becoming highly attractive to larger organizations. This has a lot to do with the growth of growth of African nations, but it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship because these are large organizations. Larger organizations are usually not on an entrepreneurship structure, so to speak. With Kenya and Ghana, these two are experiencing just huge lack in the area of investment and entrepreneurship. Now, this brings me to my first slide, which is a list of many countries, and it talks about their investments as a percentage of the GDP within each nation. Now, if you look at each country name, there is only one African country on there, which is South America, which is a little bit more known to be industrialized. But that just solidifies my point that many of these African nations are struggling, and investments are not going into these countries at all, or within the country, so just within the country. There are a couple challenges that are facing the Ghanaian market, which include low purchasing power, meaning that their dollar just doesn't buy very much, and as well as they are not familiar with American products and with just global products as a whole, so they're struggling with entrepreneurship ventures in that area as well. According to the internationalentrepreneur.com, Ghana has seen a 5% growth in their ag and industrial sectors, but as far as entrepreneurship goes, once again, it is just not a growing sector. Which brings me to my second point. There are many challenges that these countries are facing, that many African nations are facing, some of which are being alleviated, and one of the alleviation methods is through the use of microfinance. Microfinance is a very good thing, however, it does have its kinks. According to Investopedia.com, microfinance is defined as a type of bank service that is provided for low-income individuals, meaning that money is just like lower investments are given and loans are given to these people but they're just in smaller amounts. Even you and I can get involved with the amount of $20 if we wanted to. Microfinance is good in part, but there are, like I said earlier, there are some kinks to it. And according to the Stanford Social Innovation Review, there have been instances where these microcredit, microfinance companies are actually not alleviating poverty and making it worse. But there are some ways that these countries can be helped, and there are some ways that, there's also a slide about microfinance talking about Ghana and Kenya as well. Their main goal, like I said, is to alleviate poverty. There's been over $7 billion invested into Africa alone, and Ghana has actually seen 150,000 participants, while Kenya has actually seen 1.1 million participants. But that's going to lead me into my third and final point of the speech, and it's just ways that countries can help themselves and be helped by us. There is one particular initiative called the Multilateral Debt Relief Initiative, and it was created by the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the African Development Fund. And it was created in 2006 as a way to alleviate debt. Their goal is to give 100% of debt alleviation for investments and for their economic structure, and their goal is actually to alleviate poverty by 2015, which is this year. According to the HarvardBusinessReview.com, entrepreneurs must identify opportunities, gather resources, and strike deals. This is a very good thing for entrepreneurs, and there can be entrepreneurship classes that even go over to Africa, and just ways that we can help them. And according to the International Journal of Business resource through the website IFO, the MDRI, which is indicated here, allows countries to capitalize on trade opportunities, meaning that it gives them businesses more trade opportunities with them there. Now, there are things that we can do to help. This is my call to action, and I would just like for each of you to possibly go out and inform others about this, about my 3 points, which is stated that global entrepreneurship is moving beyond their capabilities, that there are many opportunities and challenges that go along with this. And so if you guys could just inform other people about this, that would be great, and it would give rise to the cause of African entrepreneurship. Thank you.
And we're still here. Yay.
Hold on, I'm watching